Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Dennis, lead artist of Moz House. Thanks for tuning into the Moz House podcast. On today's podcast episode, we feature current resident artist Saidah Belo-Osagie. Saidah is a Nigerian-American comedian, actress, and writer from the New York City or Long Island area. She made her directorial debut with Tinge from 2020, which screened at major film festivals such as Tallgrass and Newfest. Trained in clowning, she brings vulnerability and playfulness to her work, including as the host of an Unscripted, a reality TV parody show at Union Hall. Beyond performing, she is a film and events producer, associate producing The Choice Is Yours at Paramount Plus MTV and Black Ember at Tribeca 2024. Her event series Afrobeats Futura won the Unsung Hero Award at the 2023 Soho House Awards. She is currently repped by 3 Arts Entertainment for literature management. So welcome to the podcast, Saidah.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeremy.
So sadly, today is your last day of the residency. You've been here for about a week. I wanted to start just a little bit about how has Moz House and being here at Shinnecock influenced your creativity?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a week, but it's been such a short period of time and also such a transformative period of time as well. This is my first residency, so I didn't know exactly what to expect. And I think Moz House is such a special place because I was really able to release a lot of the pressures that I would put on myself because the environment was just so welcoming and the reservation in general is a magical place. I just found a lot of peace walking around, biking around, everyone being so kind, and the actual space itself, like it's very inspirational, like being able to go down to the art studio and paint or do whatever I want. Meeting everyone around was super helpful. It was especially helpful because the work I was coming here to present was supposed to explore my comedy in the context of this new character that I'm exploring, a liberal who isn't really willing to make any sacrifices to make any changes. Being here was able to help me contextualize it because it's also like, okay, here's my space as someone who is not native coming to this reservation and having this commentary, but it felt kind of meta too. So I thought it was wonderful.
It's so great to hear your performance yesterday. Everyone enjoyed your show so much. You also spent time in the Hamptons, going to different art spaces, some of the nightlife, some of the social spaces. Did that also inform what you wanted to create or present? I noticed that you pointed out some local landmarks.
Yeah, it was like, okay, bring this home and make this more relevant. But it was also funny because, you know, there's the whole dialogue around these art spaces that are inherently exclusive and what it looks like to look like me or look like us and walk into these, you know, predominantly white spaces. And there's always going to be commentary or satire that is there and something that's fun to play with. Regardless, beyond the performance of those spaces, it was super great to go to all the different art. I was unfamiliar with the East's game, like the Hamptons game when it came to the art and everything. So yeah, that definitely informed it all, and I was really glad to go.
I want to shout out Watermill Center. We went over there for their open studios. Yeah. They also came to your show, so that was so awesome to see.
Part of the cinematic universe. It was so great to see all of them come out. And of course, the church.
Check it out if you're in town.
Yes, Jeremy's amazing show that he created.
Well, going back to your work, I wanted to ask about your performance, which was titled A Clown's Exploration of Identity. So you had a ramping up of preparing for it. I think we were talking about organizing it, and you're like, how am I going to do 20 minutes worth of material? And then it was over an hour long. It's such a great flow. Felt like you could do a whole other hour if you wanted to. For those who may not know what clowning is, do you mind describing it in your own words?
So clowning, I like to describe as an exploration of your inner child and the way that inner child may manifest in the form of a character or a bit. That performance is different from stand-up and improv because it is enmeshed in the audience. Your performance is completely determined by what the audience is giving you. Even with yesterday's performance, I felt like as much as I was a character, the audience was a character, and we were all having this interwoven dialogue, which was really fun and allowed me to be more playful in my clown and explore the room and the space.
We've had performances here at Moz House in the past, and everyone is typically really shy and not participatory, but you really brought out the social aspect. I did want to ask, about one part of the performance. Hopefully it'll be online or some clips in the future. You had especially audience participation in the realm of describing your identity and whether or not people feel comfortable describing you as a Black woman. What was it about that term or that identifier that you wanted people to really whisper, shout, or have a reverb effect?
I've been thinking about this for a while, and it sometimes trickles in my performance, but never like as overtly as I did yesterday. When people talk about Black people, Black women, there's always either this added gravitas to it or people shy away from it. It's funny how many times people will not use the word Black, but will use marginalized, underrepresented, diverse, BIPOC, every other word except for Black of the global African diaspora. I wanted to play with that idea of this, liberal person who is shying away from, or they'll be like, oh, she had such beautiful skin. And I'm like, okay, but what did she look like? And they're like, no, she looked like, and I was playing with that. So I thought if my character was the person who, also maybe struggled with her identity or how she presented in society and what other people would call her and refer to her, I wanted to play with that with the audience.
Yeah, so well done. And you prepare so much leading up to the performance, but you also improvise at the same time. So you have all those kind of playful identifiers, but was WOB one of the improvised ones, or?
Yeah, for context, there was another Black woman in the audience, but she was like, just say it, she was like, just say that you're, and then I was like, that I'm what? And then we had this moment and she said that we agreed we were both women of Brooklyn, so WOBs,
Pretty funny.
which was not planned, but really fun.
That's so awesome. How is it that clowning as a practice shapes your storytelling? Maybe how does it inform stand-up comedy or just how you approach life every day? I'm sure it enters into everyday experiences.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely a yes and improvisational person. I feel like I'm very playful with everything that I do. I like to seek joy in everything that I do. I'm somebody that can be anxious and put a lot of unnecessary pressure on myself. Clown allows me to release that because it's almost self-serving. I'm releasing this responsibility to the audience. If I have to be up here, we're all in this. But it's great because I think that there's so many amazing pieces of art that can't be planned. Even if I had planned this to the second, I couldn't have predicted all the moments that were unexpected. And I think that those moments are sometimes more valuable, more charged, more artistic, more explorative than we could imagine. And I think that trickles into my stand-up as well.
Oh, definitely. And speaking of the different elements, you also incorporated a PowerPoint with some photos, some videos, interactive elements. But I was struck by some of the old childhood photos that you shared. One was like in a dance class, was at a spelling bee. But I saw with the spelling bee photo, you seem like such a shy young person, and now you're like so outgoing, you're out in front of crowds. What was that moment of going from shyness to publicly presenting and being center on stage?
I know. It's funny because when I was younger, I used to really want to perform, but I had this strong fear and aversion to it, the stage, the audience, people looking and judging you. I didn't perform really. I wouldn't count any performance in high school and college, but I think it's always in you. One of the Watermill Center people called it my daemon or something. It's like this thing in you that will always inevitably come out, something that you were born with or born to do. Clown classes for sure definitely helped me, which I started taking a few years ago, and it just helped me learn how to have fun and really pushed me to be vulnerable and like understanding that it's always going to be vulnerable, but that's where the magic is. It's in the vulnerability.
And speaking of transformative moments, it seems like as adults we never play. And I wonder if you could describe like what was life like without clowning as an outlet, or before play was prioritized. Was it too hard to share things or find an art form fitting for you? There's also that, and then the other side of it is connecting with other people. I think traditional stand-up can be a little bit too sterile or like in a lane.
Right, totally.
I wonder if you could describe how play enters in all of this to benefit not only you and your art form, but people who want to engage with it?
I started clowning in 2021, and that felt especially important because there was a global pandemic. So things were already quite dire, and you're just sitting at home, and everyone's trying to grasp at some sort of normalcy through Zoom, and that wasn't necessarily relatable. Before that, I thought that was going to be more behind the camera film. I always wanted to act. I had my short film that I made, and I was writing, directing, and I'm still so proud of it. And I'm so glad that I did it, and I would love to do that in the future. But when I look back at that, I don't necessarily remember all the fun things that came with it. I just remember how much post work and how stressed I was. I feel like leaving a creative project, I never want to only remember the stressful moments. Like, there's no point in doing it if it's not going to feel fun and fulfilling. I think I probably felt stifled in some way because I just didn't even know where to start when it came to performing. And stand-up was way too scary for me to fathom. I was actually thrust into performing on stage because I had a friend and she had a 2-night show in the Union Hall venue, and one of the comics stepped out. This was 2023, and she asked if I could replace her. At that point, I had been hosting my show, the Afrobeats Futura one, so I was always microdosing it, like, okay, I'm on the stage, but I'm facilitating something. So when she was like, you have 10 minutes to be on a stage and do whatever you want for 2 nights, I was like,
Oh, that's crazy. And how long was that performance? Last minute?
Oh, yeah, the performance with my friend. She gave me a week and a half or 2 weeks notice, so it wasn't like the night before, luckily.
That's good.
It was like the only time I really didn't feel nervous, which was so crazy because I feel really nervous before any performance, but I guess I had nothing to compare it to, so I didn't know what to expect. And I was like, oh, I'm just, playing with my friend. And that felt nice because it felt like when you're younger and you have a play date with your friend, the stakes don't feel high. This time it was with an audience, but I was like, okay.
Oh, definitely. I was joking a little bit yesterday with some of the guests at your performance that you were inspiring all of us to be funnier and more playful. But I was just curious about your work process. Do you always have a notepad, or how do you take experiences from real life and turn it into jokes or material? Like, is there a on and off time, or is it like everything is part of it?
I think I'm always on. I remember when I was more in the film mindset or TV, and I still feel this way where you're watching TV and sometimes I can just enjoy TV for the sake of enjoying it, but other times I'm like, oh, I have to watch for the structure and character development. Same thing with real life. Like, just anything that I think is funny, I'll write it on my notes app on my phone, but I also always have a little notebook around if there are things I want to extrapolate on.
That's awesome. You're such a funny presenter, funny comedian. When I think of other popular comedians, they often have like anything is a joke, everything can be made fun of. They usually don't present a lot of emotional depth in their performance, but I think that you span the entirety of happiness, sadness, vulnerability. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, is that just the nature of clowning, or is that something that was important for you to incorporate?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a major part of clowning. Like, clowning is, it's the sad face, the happy face. When I first started taking classes, I was crying a good amount. I think a lot of times it felt hard for me to cry when it came to things about me, but when other people would go on stage, I would just start, it could be something so mundane, like someone pretending to be a bird that got trapped in a tree, and I would just start sobbing. It's just so crazy how much emotion can be brought out of very simple things, even if you don't try to. I think with my performance, it is funny, but it's also objectively a pretty serious, topic around both being a Black woman in society, being someone that's trying to be good with the collapse of society. It's inevitable. It can't just be like, la la la. I'm completely detached from this. I'm so actively, as everyone is, affected by it. I try to explore that too, what it means to laugh and cry at the same time.
There's so much I want to ask about. I don't know if you describe yourself as being an influencer on social media, but like a platform and the audience. You've been featured on other people's programs and have that mutual kind of audience building. How does it change between when you have a selfie and a cell phone and you're doing your own bit versus clowning on stage? Is that very different, or is it part of the same?
Well, thank you. It feels really different, honestly, because clowning is so ephemeral, where you experience it and it disappears and it can't be replicated. It's just whatever happens that day. And I really enjoy that because you never know what to expect. But I think with posting online and trying to build an audience. I really like creating content, but you're also playing with this idea of working with the algorithm and trying to feed in things. I try not to be goal-oriented or anything, but the more I've stumbled into building some sort of audience, the more I've thought about that. And I'm like, oh, I hate that part of my brain that has to think about that, because that's like the last thing I want to think about. I just want to create, So yeah, they definitely feel very different, and I enjoy them in different ways.
I like how you're so aware of your audience. Another thing I notice about really big comics is they never read the comment section. They don't want to risk that for a whole list of reasons. When there's criticism or ignorance or racism or all kinds of nasty things that people say. It seems like you're not afraid of looking and seeing what people think, and whether it's YouTube or Instagram, just seeing the comments people leave. What is it for you? Is it maybe something to respond to, or is it something that you believe you could change people's minds about what they think?
I definitely don't want to live in the comment section at all. Part of it is nosiness. Part of it is people are going to say things. If we grow as people are always going to hurl things at us. I'm like, this microdose, what's going to be hurled at me? For videos that garner some sort of discourse, I have to be curious. If people are like, knock, knock, we're the Gothamists, we want to interview you for this video, I can't be completely like, wait, what are you talking about? I had noticed that some videos, people will just hurl things. For me, it's been a good practice. My immediate instinct is to defend myself and explain, I'm a good person, you don't know me, and I'm not this transplant. It's its own kind of fodder for creation, this immediate need to defend ourselves, when in reality, it's still character work. If someone was acting or something, you shouldn't be like, why did you do this? They put out art to be consumed and engaged with, but you don't know the person. Yeah.
That's awesome. One last question I'm going to ask about social media and everything, but you spoke a little bit about playing with some of the visual art materials downstairs. I wonder, are you a big fan of just static memes or picture memes, or is it just entirely looking at other live performers on social media?
Oh my gosh, I love memes. I think that there's so many great meme pages that really succinctly do what I try to do through video. It's not the same, obviously, but I love memes. I think that they're incredible. I think that I think that they make me think, honestly. Some are really just silly dumb, but then there are others that I think about and I'm like, yeah, actually, good point. So I'm open to it all.
I just wanted to quickly also ask about your film. In 2020, you directed a short film titled Tinge, which also screened at major festivals. For those who haven't seen it, the premise is that when a hopeless romantic doesn't get a text back from her dream date, she finds herself spiraling as she tries to grapple with both rejection and her distorted perception of reality. What was the inspiration for the film? And I wonder if from 2020 until now, has your storytelling changed from that?
So the inspiration, it's so funny, thank God for time, because I think at that time I had been probably ghosted by some guy and really internalized it. That feeling of being ghosted by somebody and not getting an explanation why, and how you're able to, from someone else's perception of you, you're able to completely fall apart based on someone who's a stranger who doesn't even know your last name. And suddenly I'm looking inward like, how did this happen? How did this happen? And I think that I was always really interested in absurdity and surrealism. New York is always the backdrop in a lot of things I think about. So even with Tinge, I remember we were filming on the subway. We didn't have a permit. The police stopped us. I was so afraid they were going to erase our entire hard drive. It was the final 30 minutes we had to film. Thank God a Black woman, a cop, was like, okay, fine, you have 5 minutes. And then we just quickly got our stuff and left. But yeah, I think that, it's funny even making the presentation. I looked at little clips of it and I was like, oh, I remember just making this. And it really sparked joy because it feels like that's still something that has been kept in me, having New York as a backdrop, talking about things that might seem mundane, but blowing them and adding in a megaphone to them is something that I think has still stayed the same.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for that. And so that was a short film about romantic experiences in New York City. Are we going to look out for any upcoming films or any stories that you're wanting to share in film?
I mean, I'm still screenwriting, so I still have things that I'm working on. And I would hope that this show that I created could eventually be turned into a TV show of sorts. I think that would be fun and explore everything beyond gentrification, but just living in Brooklyn and what that's like.
That's awesome. I wanted to also transition to your producing background. So not only do you perform, you do social media content, but you also create space for other presenters and comedians. How does that compare to being in front of the camera? And do you enjoy the admin side of it and the organizing side of it?
Yeah. Well, okay. So yes, the producing, that was the last job that I had. I was an associate producer for almost 2 years and I quit. Producing is really important and necessary. I'm really grateful for having the ability to produce anything. It helped me produce my own shows that I perform live. In terms of admin and everything, I definitely didn't miss that. That was a big reason why I couldn't see myself doing it long term. I felt myself more drained by all the logistics. I'm like, I want to have fun and play. Even if the fun is tough to do, I'm very proud of the things that I've produced or helped produce. I think all artists, it's important to know how to create something so you also know the right questions to ask when someone else is eventually producing your own work.
Definitely. So it helps you organize your own to present, better self-betterment.
Totally.
Since today is also your last day at Ma's house, I wonder if you have any upcoming exciting programs or presentations or things that you want to promote for followers, whether on the East End or in New York City?
Yeah, for sure. This coming week, 28th, 29th, and 30th, I'll be performing, I believe on the 28th. If you follow me at Apple Cider on Instagram, I'll be performing at UCB, at Pete's Candy Shop, and I'll be doing like a work in progress piece with my friend at, I'm forgetting the location, but they're all in New York City somewhere, Brooklyn or Manhattan. So stay posted. But of course, would love to come back to the East. Best place.
All right. You'll have to get connected with some venues, get some live performances again, different audiences.
Totally.
Are there any other things that you want to go back to or anything that we didn't talk about that you want to touch on?
I mean, you were such a good interviewer, honestly. That was really pretty comprehensive.
All right.
I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Saidah, for joining us on the podcast and for participating in the residency. Hope it leads to many more. Thank you and appreciate your time here.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. So grateful.